celebrating 12 incredible years of empowering automotive professionals with trusted news, insights, and strategies. Thank you for driving success with us. Here's to a future of innovation and excellence in automotive retail. You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us this morning on Inside Automotive right here at cbtnews.com. Luxury cars, bow ties, and a behind-the-scenes look at life in Mercedes-Benz dealership. Today we're joined by Doug Horner, who is better known as social media BenzsandBowties. You've probably seen him on TikTok and so many other platforms. Doug joins us with a unique perspective on the state of the luxury automotive market and also talk to us about trends that he sees in social media. And he's knocking the cover off the ball right now in social media. So a lot of you might want to take out a notepad and take some notes here to see if you can garner some new customers and what have you. And everybody's using social media. So Doug, thank you so much for taking the time out of your what looks to be a very busy schedule. For those of you that follow Doug, you'll see that he's got a pretty busy day, as many of you do, but thanks for joining us on the show.
My pleasure, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So first, before we get into the social media part of this, how's business at your store?
It's good. November was a busy month, specifically, especially for new cars. And December, things have gotten off to a fast start. So Mercedes-Benz has really stepped up with some great programs to end the year. Mm-hmm. And we need all the help we can get after a very up and down 2024. Yes,
that it has been. What is your take as a Mercedes-Benz dealer on the EV industry, the EV business, I should say?
Well, that's such a hot topic. It's hard to tell because depending on who you listen to, things are getting better, and other people will tell you that it's just going downhill fast.
Yeah.
I think Mercedes has adjusted nicely with their production. The 2024 model year has, they've given us less product, which I think has actually helped us to sell it more efficiently. Mm-hmm. And everybody that has bought one really seems to love them. Yeah. But we're in the Midwest, and especially in the Midwest, you've got a lot of people that have already decided they're never going to drive one.
Why do they say? Do they share with you why they say that?
I think that, part of it's the mentality of Midwesterners where, some of the areas can be a little bit more rural and they know that there's just very little infrastructure. And so they don't want to be in a situation where they would ever be, without a charger and unable to get home. So I think that, I don't know, part of it is maybe a mentality. Others are just like, I'm always going to have a gas car no matter what, so it's, whatever the reason is, right. It's been an uphill battle for us. But
Sure. And maybe, and probably time will change some of that sentiment out there, right? As they see maybe more of their friends buying them and as they drive them themselves, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Are people coming in and asking and inquiring about EVs, into the dealership before they even buy, a combustion engine? Are they saying, well, let me take a look at an EV anyway while I'm here?
Yeah, you've got a certain percentage of people that come in looking for them specifically. One of the things that we do is we suggest them to people.
Okay.
Right. We'll ask them, hey, while you're here, no pressure, just take one for a spin. Yep. Let us know what you think.
It's a good idea. Because,
the way we've sold most of them, you get somebody behind the wheel, they take it for a drive, and they come back kind of with like this look of like, okay, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I've spoken to a lot of dealers around the country, and they've said to me that they are making more of a commitment to get more of their salespeople to drive EVs. In fact, one dealer I spoke to said that they've mandated a demo policy, and they believe that, right, in the industry, that a demo program would be back in fashion, but they put everybody in EV demos because they felt as though the salespeople were not that schooled and they didn't understand EVs, they didn't drive EVs themselves, so therefore when somebody would come in and inquire about an EV, that salesperson would find a way to get them to an ICE engine just because they felt more comfortable selling that vehicle because that's the vehicle they drive. That's the engine that they're most used to. Would you agree with that statement that we need in the industry to get more salespeople on the front line driving and experiencing EVs?
100%. Salespeople don't like to be in a position where they're attempting to sell something that they're unfamiliar with, right? Because they don't feel confident. the buyer can feel that, and it just is a very awkward experience for everybody.
Sure.
So and I love that idea. And in fact, we didn't put anything in that, when they first came out, we did allow every one of our salespeople to take one home for a day, right? So on their day off, take it home, live with it for a day so that they could kind of experience it a little bit.
Sure.
Now, I would say we've got maybe 4 or 5 of our salespeople that are driving one. And with the incentives as compelling as they are, it's kind of hard to argue with, in our case, getting $80,000 to $120,000 cars for payments more in line with a $60,000 to $70,000 ICE vehicle.
Right. Right.
So, and in fact, I started driving one myself when they started coming out in November of 2021. I had that same mentality, which is I need to drive one of these as a demo for a little while to get familiar with them.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, I still use one as my demo because as a daily driver, they're just, I can't believe how much I enjoy driving them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what most people say when they get behind the wheel and they drive them and they experience them and they're like, wait, how come I'm not buying one of these? How come I'm not considering this? And to your point, some of the lease deals and incentives that are out there to move EVs can be much better than what's on an ICE vehicle.
Yeah, if they're going to throw that much money at them, let's take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No question. In terms of your inventory, a lot of dealers are challenged right now with a pretty large inventory. Is that the same for you at your store?
Absolutely. We're a large dealer, by volume. So, and we've always had kind of a difficult situation with the space that our dealership occupies. We don't have a lot of parking.
Okay.
So when we're selling 100 plus new cars a month, we're going to have anywhere from 250 to 300 new cars in stock, and we really don't have places to park them. So we're getting back to that historically normal inventory level, which means that we've had to go looking for extra space to rent to park some of the vehicles. So yeah, it's quickly gotten back to levels of pre-COVID inventory.
Yeah. If somebody calls, clicks, or comes in the next couple of weeks, you're putting that deal together if you can, right?
Oh yeah, so I handle all of the pricing for new cars, and it's very dynamic, right? We're always looking at what's going on in the market. Where do we need to be? We give people our best price right up front, so there's no chance that you could come in and pay less than somebody else just because you try to beat me up for a little bit. But I will tell you that in an effort to finish the year strong, as cliche car salesperson as I feel saying this to you, we are being extremely aggressive because we frankly have no places to park these cars.
Wow.
So
wow. Yeah. The old adage is I'd rather be high in a trade-in than to be trying to retail this new car next year, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something. So, all right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Your social media followers get an inside look at life in a dealership. You literally, you've got that camera rolling while you're desking a deal, which I think is pretty courageous for a couple of reasons. But you actually show the consumer on social media how a manager figures out a deal and what questions you're asking the salesperson. It's also can be used, I think, as somewhat of an inside look for somebody that's looking to get into the industry to say, okay, this is what it's like. When you go to your manager, all that, I'm going to go check with the manager. Well, this is what it's like when you go check with a manager. And I think it's very interesting. What motivated you to do this?
Well, it's something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time, and I was trying to kind of live vicariously through my team and encourage them to start using social media because I was noticing, a lot of automotive content creators that were just reaching so many people by putting these videos out. I heard it described by somebody saying, we can be upset with the people that we work with for being on social media in their downtime, or maybe even when they're supposed to be working, or we can just understand that that's kind of how people spend most of their downtime now. They're on social media, so we should be there.
Yeah.
If that's where all of our consumers are, then why wouldn't we be there so that we're in front of them?
Sure.
Couldn't get anyone on my team to take the jump, so I finally decided, all right, I guess it'll be me. Part of that was, I wanted to kind of give myself a new challenge. I've been in the business for 14 years, and when you're a GSM for as long as I've been, you want to find a way to keep it fresh and exciting. And I thought, hey, this will be interesting. And then before I knew it, it kind of took off.
Sure.
So.
Sure. And what kind of comments are you getting back from those that see you on social media, watch you work a deal? I would imagine consumers are calling you and saying, hey, I heard what you did on the last deal, and
Yeah.
what can you do for me? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, especially when one of the things that we talk about a lot is, how to deal with this massive negative equity problem that the industry is
Yeah.
facing right now.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing and a curse because we do everything that we can to help people that maybe bought at the height of the market in COVID, and it wasn't the right vehicle for them, and now they're realizing that a year or two later, except that the values dropped significantly. They
Yeah.
took out a longer loan, right? They're certainly not paying it off nearly as fast as they're depreciating it.
Right.
And so you help a few of those people with these big negative equity situations going into maybe an EV, right? Or a demo, something that can be deeply discounted so that the
Yeah.
bank is more comfortable with it.
Yeah, of course.
And after you do a few of those, then the rest of the world that finds themselves in a similar situation start to call, right? Because they want us to find a solution for them as well. But eventually we run out of EVs and demos to sell.
Yeah.
And so I feel bad to a point where we want to help as many people as we can, but we also want to be realistic with people that some situations are mathematically difficult to work with.
Sure. What do you think surprises people the most about the day-to-day operations at a luxury car dealership?
Probably all the questions that I ask the salespeople.
That's right.
So, I think that a lot of times, people have the idea that, oh, when a salesperson disappears to the manager's office, that they're probably just hanging out, talking about whatever random,
right. Could be the sports score that day. They don't really trust that manager's going, where do they live? Where'd they buy the last car? How much do they owe? Have they had it appraised someplace else? Have they been here before? Did they talk to anybody else about a price? I mean, there's a lot of things that you ask and that managers really need to ask before they pencil that first deal, right?
Absolutely, because I have to know how you got to us. What's the problem that you're trying to solve? What situation do you have now? I mean, if we don't ask these questions, then we're not going to do a good job of helping people.
That's right.
And, so I think that that's been the number one thing they're surprised about. Now it's kind of become a running joke where they'll ask me if I ask the salesperson questions that I would normally ask if it gets left out of a video.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I noticed that you don't it's a kind of a one-sided conversation where it's you at the desk and you hear your salesperson behind the camera that's answering your questions, and the kind of the banter back and forth between you and your colleague there, a salesperson or what have you. Is there a specific reason for that? Have your people said, hey man, don't put me on camera, or what's the deal?
No, I think that it really just when I started doing it, in order to get myself kind of over the hill and going, I realized, okay, you know what I got to do? I'm going to take my phone. I'm just going to prop it up against my computer, and I'm just going to start filming that way.
Yeah.
Because I certainly wasn't going to go and invest in fancy cameras or hire somebody to film me unless I knew that there was going to be a reason for that. So that's kind of how it started, and it just sort of took off. And I will do videos occasionally where I grab somebody from the sales floor to film while I go and maybe interview, somebody in their office. So it's not entirely that format, but I think that people kind of resonated with that early on, and so I just sort of stuck with it.
That's great. That's great. What is the dealer principal? What group owns the store?
It's a Rafi Automotive Group. Okay. So they're primarily out of Canada.
Okay. And how do they feel about what you're doing?
So they initially were a little apprehensive because, you can go onto any video and you can find some commenters that have less than nice things to say. And so I think when they saw a few people that were just, being mean for the sake of being mean, they worried maybe, oh, is this going to be bad?
Yeah, right.
A bad look for us. But I think as they dug a little deeper, noticed that, let's call it 80 to 90% of the comments are positive, and started seeing all of the, phone calls and leads that were coming into the store as a result. At that point, it's kind of hard to argue with the process, right? Yeah, you just
showed them how to monetize all of this. What is your advice to those that are interested in doing what you're doing?
The simplest advice I can give you is just to start filming, and it can be anything at all, right? I think that people that want to do it, they obsess too much over what the content's going to be.
Yeah.
And as a result of it, they talk themselves out of it, right? Because, they'll be like, oh, I've got to I've got a scratch in my throat today, or I just can't come up with the perfect idea. And it's like the consistency of doing it every day is much more important than the content, at least initially, because once you get into a routine, you'll get more comfortable. You'll figure out what type of videos that you like to take.
Right.
And at that point, you'll already be rolling.
That's right.
So,
That's right. And many times people will say about social media is that authenticity means so much. So don't try to make it too polished, right? I mean, you put the good, the bad, and the ugly out there, which is really what probably resonates with the viewer, right?
oh, absolutely. I think that people, when something is too polished, they feel like they're watching an overproduced commercial,
Yeah.
and they just lose interest. So when, a little bit of, sloppiness almost can make it a little more endearing and more believable
Mm-hmm.
and more authentic and genuine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be professionally shot.
Yeah.
People just want to see you.
Sure. Sure. What platforms are you currently on, and which ones do you feel work the best for you?
So I started with TikTok because it was the easiest one to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what kind of took off. I've since expanded into, all the major ones: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. They all, it's become kind of like a full-time second job, I'll tell you that, because they don't all like the same things.
Right.
Some like videos that are longer, some like videos that are shorter.
Sure.
So it's really been a learning experience for me to kind of get familiar with all the different platforms and what type of content do and the users are different too.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was finding when I first started was people would hear, "Hey, my friend told me that you're like social media famous now, but I haven't seen any of your videos." And it's because at the time I was only on TikTok, and
Right.
I don't have that. I only have Instagram.
Right.
So you're going to find different people in different places.
Right. What would your suggestion be to those that are listening that want to get into this? Is there a specific or better platforms than others specific to the auto industry to do what you're doing?
I think that Instagram and TikTok are the two best ones, because they have huge user bases. Your videos don't have to be super long, right? They can be a minute to a minute and a half, which is
Mm-hmm.
manageable for most people. And you're going to find every age range and demographic on there. But people, obviously social media can be used for any industry, but if you happen to be in the car business, the advantage that you have, and what people don't realize, is that Americans and really people around the world have a love affair with cars,
Yes.
even if they don't want to admit it to
That's
themselves,
right.
right?
That's right.
Everyone is at least a little bit interested in
Yep.
cars, and most people are actually very interested. So any automotive content at all is going to get eyeballs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It just be a cool car. Take a video of a cool car.
That's
and
right.
You can get some,
That's right. Yeah. And others, as you know, are doing it in the industry as well. It's interesting though. I haven't come across one yet that's doing what you're doing, which is actually recording the creation of the deal or desking
Mm-hmm.
the deal, which I think is pretty cool. It gives everyone an inside look at that. And I'm sure that even salespeople or prospects of salespeople, those that are thinking about getting into the industry, are watching to say, this gives us a kind of a back, a look behind the scenes, so to speak, to see what it's like, right?
Absolutely. And some of the best feedback that I get, the feedback that I'm most excited to receive, is from people who say, watching your videos has made me want to get into the car business.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very cool, because I think a lot of us sort of fell into it at some point in our
Yeah.
lives. We didn't necessarily seek it out unless maybe you had a family member that was already in the business.
Right.
But to people saying, "Hey, I want to do what you do,"
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like the greatest compliment I can get from somebody.
Oh yeah, no question about it. Which came first, social media or the bow tie? I mean, was that, because obviously not a lot of people wear bow ties in the car business. Makes
Right.
sense though, because you don't get your tie caught in a door or something. But so
Right.
is that kind of part of the brand that you've got, where people go, the guy with the bow tie?
Yeah, so the bow tie came first. This has been going on for about 10 years. I started wearing them in 2014. At that point, I had been in sales for about 3.5 years. And at the time, when you hit that 3-year mark in the car business, right, you have some of your repeat business starting to come back.
Sure.
And some of those familiar faces from years prior were coming back, and they weren't asking for me. Now, at the time, being young in the business and not fully understanding it yet, I thought, oh, well, I'm just not memorable enough, right? So maybe I'll do something that nobody else does and put a bow tie on.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
Because I had learned to tie it. I've since learned that it's not just about being the only person wearing a bow tie. It's about, really
Yeah.
fostering the relationships and much better follow-up than I was doing at that time in my career. But it just sort of, I'll never forget the first day I wore one to work. It was like I may as well have shown up to work naked. The way everyone was just cracking up. They were so distracted because in Ohio, you just don't see very many bow ties.
That's right. And, That's right.
So it ended up being a fun thing, and I just kind of ran with it from there. And when I decided to start this account, I for whatever reason, I thought that because that's going to be on camera all the time, I might as well make it part of my online persona.
That's right. That's pretty cool. The store that you're at, I believe Bernie Mareno used to own, right? Was that?
He did.
Yeah, and he's now in the Senate. That's pretty cool, right?
It's hard to believe that somebody was able to win a Senate race in their first attempt at any kind of politics. But I mean, it goes to show you just how charismatic and magnetic he was or is as a person, right? I mean, what he built in North Olmsted, Ohio, right? We're outside of Cleveland. We shouldn't be the largest new car Mercedes dealer in the Midwest, but he built that with his enthusiasm and his ideas. And so it's been a tall task to maintain that over the years, but he gave us a great head start.
Yeah, no question about it. He really built his reputation in the car business, I think, right at that store. They did an amazing job with it. And when a lot of people told him it couldn't be done, and he said, really, watch me. And then, of course, running for Senate, a lot of people told him, "Up, can't be done. You haven't been running in politics." He said, "Watch me." This guy's, there's no stopping him.
Kind of guy he is. Yeah, if you tell him he can't do it, he'll find a way.
There's no question about it. So what's next for Doug in social media? Are we going to see other series, or are you going to take it to the next level?
Yeah, so, I think that as we get into next year, and now I've kind of proven that there's an audience for this, I'm going to find new ways I want to get more creative with the videos themselves, and I want to offer more training. One of the things that I get asked a lot from other people in the industry is, they'll tell me, "Hey, we show a lot of your videos in our morning meetings, right? Wow. We share them with the sales team," which is, again, like high praise.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's awesome. And I think what it's told me is that there is more appetite for kind of the training specific to the people that are in the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do it because, the way I'm wired, I want to do business the right way. And what made me stay in the car business was that I saw why the industry had the reputation that it does. And there, still too many dealers that make it difficult to buy cars. And so nothing that we talk about in our sales meetings or that I encourage my team to do is anything that I feel is not in the best interest of the consumer.
Sure.
Right. So I feel like I can put more training content out there to help the industry while also still, helping consumers understand what goes on. How can you efficiently buy a car? What are the questions that if the dealer's not asking you, should you be asking them? Right. Because I want to help you save as much money as possible.
That's right. I will tell you that I sometimes when I'm watching, and I got to tell you, I'm like addicted to it. I watch it all the time, and I'm like, this is the working of a dealership. I've told some people that I work with, they're like, "What's it like to work inside of a car dealership?" Because they know that I've been in it for 20 some years, and I'm like, you got to watch this guy's video. That's what it's like, Do you ever get any comments about how you treat your salespeople? Because you get kind of right in their face to go, "I'm asking you these questions and you don't have the answers for them, and this is not good," right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's people that have been in the industry and they'll say, "Hey, you handled that great. I love the way you handled it." There's other people that have not been in the industry and they'll be like, "Wow, like your salesperson was being really rude," or like you were being really rude to them. And it's and what I have to explain to them is that all of my salespeople are different, and like all human beings, we all have different personalities, and so I interact with all of them differently. Some of them need a softer approach, some of them need a more direct approach. But if they're coming into my office to work a deal and they're unprepared or they're not asking the right questions,
right.
Just for the sake of social media, I'm not going to be flowery about it. I'm going to remind them, "Hey,
Yeah.
That,
No, and the questions are always good. I mean, you'll ask some fundamental questions that those salespeople, after spending 25, 30 minutes with them, should have known by now. I'm putting my trainer hat on, going, he's right about that. How come you don't know where they've come from, or what, if they ever owned a Mercedes-Benz before? Some of the questions that you'll ask them, like, the salesperson should have asked those questions. So it's also 100%. Good training for them.
And that's, yeah, exactly. I think that what a lot of people have also learned is that a lot of the best sales training in a dealership should happen at the desk.
Yeah.
Right? If managers are just printing the numbers and then sending them on their way, they're very often missing the opportunity to
I agree.
make people better.
That's right. I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. Doug Horner, General Sales Manager at Mercedes-Benz of North Olmsted in Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. This has been a real pleasure. I've been watching you, and now I got you on my show. So this is great. For those of you who are showing the information here, we've been showing to our audience many of the videos that you've done. But you got to check this guy out online. I know you'll get a kick out of it if you're in the industry, and I'm sure many of you already have. So keep doing that. So Doug, thanks so much. Love to do a follow-up with you and talk to you about where this is going in the future.
Would love that. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for following along and watching the content. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.